So when
Hmm.
I think of critical race theory, I think of how
Say, how's the fam?
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to How's the Fam, your podcast about family, friends, and growth. And today, I am joined by a great church member, a good friend, Loki, the wife of one of the favorite people I know, Vonda. Everybody,
hello everybody, how y'all doing?
Vonda, welcome to the show, man. Tell the people a
Thank
little
you for
bit about
having me,
yourself.
Tyler.
Man, I wouldn't have done it without you, okay? You and Denzel, there was no way this was going to get done without hearing y'all's stories, okay? Tell the people a little bit about you.
Well, I am a mother of three. My oldest daughter is 21 and she's about to graduate from college in the spring. So I'm really excited about that. It's been a long journey for that one, but that's another story, honey. We can talk about that journey with Faith later. She actually plays basketball, and so she's got a game here in about 30 minutes. So I'm excited to watch her play her last season of basketball as a
Wow.
senior. Uh-huh. So I also have a 10-year-old son. I have a 5-year-old daughter. I am a mama bear. I am also a wife of a very lovely and encouraging and wonderful man, Brandon. Um, I don't really have a whole lot to say about me. There's not really much. I'm an educator. I've been in education for 15 years, and I'm trying to become a principal right now. I'm a at-risk
Oh,
coordinator. That means I get to work with kids who are at danger of not graduating, and so I get to work with those kids, which is exciting. And so maybe in a couple of years I'll become a principal. But I love education. That's where I should be, and that's my career. And I'm excited about where I get to go next.
yo, you got the principal vibe too, man. So I love
Come on
you,
now.
but I will kick you out of the school.
In a minute.
um, So we like to start every episode with a segment called Just Checking In, okay? Now Vonda, just checking in is exactly what it sounds like. It's us just checking in with the fam and just letting them know. Kind of like what's happening today. And my
Okay.
just checking in story today is man, low key today is just a good day. Like I woke up and it was a little chilly. I must admit it was a little chilly. But I haven't had breakfast just yet. And honestly, I feel fine. I feel like today is gonna be one of them special days where like I go out and I do something beyond incredible. I don't know what that is just yet, but maybe after this interview or maybe during this interview, I'm gonna find out exactly what it is. So, like, I'm chilling, man. Today's been great, and then we have the musical very soon, so I'm looking forward to doing that too.
I'm excited about the musical. It's been a minute since
Yeah,
I've been in the choir. I kind of took some time off. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to join the choir. I'm going to get back in the choir in January. And that didn't happen because, I had some people telling me, you need to get yourself on back up here in this choir stand before January. So
yeah,
I'm glad I did. I miss it. I love worship. I love, singing and giving praises to God in that capacity. So I'm glad I
yeah.
did, even though I have this much of a voice, but I'm still going to use this much of a voice to glorify and lift up the name of Jesus. So
Yeah,
I'm
that's what's
excited.
up. So, what is your just checking in story? What you got, or was that it?
So So this morning, I didn't get a chance to work out because the person who I usually work out with didn't have class because whatever was going on in that building at the time, he wasn't able to carry his class. So I didn't get a chance to work out. So instead, I went and hung out with my friends Irina and Kendra,
Oh, no
and we
kidding.
had we had brunch. And so I told Irina, I was like, "Listen, I have to be back at home around 1 so I can hang out with Tyler and do his wonderful podcast show." And she said, "You have plenty of time." And so when you text me, I was literally on the road on two wheels trying to get here, coming back from Starbucks because everybody was telling me go get that medicine ball drink from Starbucks. It'll help with your throat. And so I was like, "Oh my God, it's 12:55." So I'm like trying to
You
get to the
pulled an
house in enough
undercover
time.
brother on
I did. I was leaning back,
him.
trying to get here, because I told you one, and I didn't want to disappoint.
Oh man, little on me, I would have waited to hear your story. Okay, you know I would have waited,
Oh, that's
man.
sweet.
So, yo, and that has been just checking in, you guys. But before, my bad, I forgot to tell y'all what the meat and potatoes is. Today's meat and potatoes is we're talking about grief, dealing with grief. We're talking about critical race theory, some of the schooling topics, and we're also going to talk a little bit about fitness if we can get there, which I think we will. I think we will. But before we get into all of that good stuff, we have one sponsor, and that sponsor is Pray, Plan, Execute. Okay, Pray, Plan, Execute is a faith-based athleisure brand, and it literally is built on wearing your faith. Okay, Vonda, Pray, Plan, Execute is a brand for people like you and me, man. People who understand what their purpose is, and people who understand that you have to pray for that purpose, then you have to plan it out. You have to actually go out there and do it, okay? So, for those who are cool with wearing their faith and those who are cool with the gentle reminder about where their purpose comes from, we have a gift, all right? We have a little gift. You can go to prayplanexecute.shop. Again, that is prayplanexecute.shop and enter code FAM at checkout. That is code FAM, FAM at checkout for the family discount, okay? Now, remember, y'all need to hurry up because we've been doing this for about 10 days already, okay? And quantities for the regular sizes like medium and large, they going. All right, they pretty much already gone. All right, at this point, you might have missed the ball, but the code remains for those of you, who can fit the XL or the extra smalls. Okay. Now,
I'm gonna have to hurry
uh,
up and get on so I can get me a shirt. I love it.
he just replenished some of the black shirts like this one and the white one. So you guys need to hurry up and get on there. Okay. Every day he's replenishing 5 shirts. So if you miss it, that ain't on me. That's on you. Y'all, pray, plan, execute. It's more than a brand. It's a lifestyle. Okay. Now, Vonda, we're about to get into the meat and potatoes of it. One thing that you already talked about was you having an aspiring dream to be a principal. Actually, I want to know where did this dream come from? This is my first time hearing about this.
Well, actually, it's not really a dream. I think it's more of a function. Um, my actual dream is to be a motivational speaker. My husband likes to say a preacher, but I don't think I want that title. I just
Yeah.
like being called, a motivational
Yeah.
speaker who just might use scripture. And so that's my dream. That's what I want to do, travel and encourage people. So whenever God allows that to happen, then that'll happen. But for right now, I think logically, the next step in my life, as a function would be to become a principal. And I think that will also kind of help me, get geared up towards, being a motivational speaker. So I'm good at that. I'm good at education. I'm good at organizing. I'm good at building relationships with kids. So it just makes sense that my next step logically would be a principal. I wouldn't call it a dream necessarily. It's just something
Okay.
that I've been good at for the last 15 years.
I've never heard somebody disseminate dream and function. What's the difference between the two? You told us what your dream is. You told us what your next function is. But what's the difference between dream and function as you look at it?
I think for me, when I say my dream, it's not necessarily something that I'm going to be getting paid for. It's something
Okay.
that I enjoy doing. It's something that brings me happiness. Not to say that my function wouldn't bring me happiness. It's just a different level of joy that I would get from it. Um, Being a speaker may not, give me a 6 or 7 figure salary, but it's paying me in a different way.
Hmm.
So, being a AP, that would allow me to function, within my family dynamic. In other words, I would be able to continue taking care of my family, making sure we have the things that we need monetarily. Um, would be, the difference, for me. I could
You
continue
know,
functioning.
I think you could do it, man. Like you used to have an infamous live stream where you used to live stream on Facebook for like 20 minutes. And even I was just like, yo, but this is captivating. So yeah, you could definitely do it. I think you can even pull off the 6 figures with it too. But
Well, pray
I
for
do.
me. Keep that pray, plan, execute. That's something that I need to pray about, make a plan, and execute those things, and just kind of watch God, do His do his thug dizzle. I'm gonna be honest with you. I haven't planned that out. And that's probably the missing piece of my dream coming true. There has not been any planning.
I got you. I'm gonna help you out with it. I'm gonna help you out like right after this interview. I'm gonna help you out with
I
that.
love it.
Now, I'm gonna ask you, what does it take? Like, obviously, a principal is a leader, right? Is a leader of education. So, what does it take to be an effective teacher for today's children?
I think the first thing that would help a teacher become effective is not to look at the benefits of a teaching job first, because I think most people think, oh, babe, I get the summers off. We get 2 weeks off for Christmas. We get all
It
this
does look
time
kind of
off.
sweet.
It looks sweet, absolutely, but trust and believe every teacher in the school system earned every single one of those days off.
I have no doubt.
They earn those days. Um, so that would be my first thing.
Hmm.
If you are really going to be an effective teacher, your first mission, your first goal should be the students. And if your first mission and your first goal is not to see every student have success, then this is not the right environment for you. Because we have so many different kids on so many different levels. And in your classroom, you're going to have kids who are, reading on a first grade level, and you're going to also have kids who are reading on, depending on whatever level you're at. I'm at middle school. So if I'm a middle school teacher, I have kids in my classroom sometimes who are reading on a first grade level, and then I also have kids who are reading on a 12th grade level. But
Wow.
it's important that I have the necessary tools and resources to have, both of those kids from that entire spectrum, all those kids in that spectrum to have some level of success at their level. um, Being an effective teacher is not about, the money, it's not about the times off, it's not about that. It's 100% about the students that you serve. And know that it's going to be very hard days ahead, and you can't let those hard days deter you from being there for those kids. So I think that's the most important part for me. What makes a teacher effective is how well you
Okay.
want your kids to be successful. All of the kids, all of them, not just the ones who are easy to teach. Okay. Not just the ones who are easy to behavior wise, they don't do, you're not in trouble. No, every kid has some type of reachable path. And as
Hmm.
a teacher, if you are effective, you are trying to effectively reach every student that you come across.
Got it. Got it. That's beautiful, man. I was gonna say, like, based off of what you said, and like just what the general public knows, every student's environment wasn't created equal, right? Every school wasn't created equal. Every teaching situation wasn't created equal. So you've already mentioned teaching at-risk students, or you mentioned at-risk student. What is the difference between teaching an at-risk student and teaching a student in a like a different environment? Like what does that, I guess, dichotomy look like?
Nothing.
Nothing.
No. And see, and I think that's another reason. I mean, okay, let me say this. For me, as a teacher and as an educator, I did not treat any of my children any differently. Every kid had the same expectations. Every kid had the same level that they had to rise to. Even my SPED kids, my ESL kids, my at-risk kids, all the way up to my GT kids. Everybody had expectations that they had to reach. And I think this is where things get cloudy. Because a child is at risk, or because a child has a particular background or have particular struggles, I'm going to excuse behavior, or I'm going to excuse, oh, they're having a tough time, or they won't be able to do X, Y, and Z. Absolutely not. Okay,
Mm,
because what's going to happen is, if you begin to, for me, this is me, if you begin to excuse behavior of kids who are having difficulties, they're going to think that they get that kind of excuse for the rest of their lives, and they don't. They won't. Okay, and so there's no difference for me. Even if you are an at-risk student, you know what? I still expect you to achieve at the level of your greatness. You notice I said at your greatness,
hmm.
because my progress might not be the same as someone else's progress, but that doesn't mean you can't move. I expect everybody to move, and I'm going to push everybody to move in a direction forward. I don't care what you're going through. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not going to be sympathetic to what's happening at home, but I'm not
Hmm.
going to allow that to be an excuse for you not to do what you are supposed to do to be successful.
Gotcha. That's that was enlightening. That was very enlightening. Okay,
Mhm.
because I do teach the youth to an extent, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't treat every kid exactly the same. Every kid does not have the same expectations. So maybe I should dial back on my mindset of teaching and start incorporating some of what you're talking about.
Mhm.
All right. Now there's a buzzword that I've been hearing often in the teaching space. Your husband has tried to explain it to me once. I'm gonna be honest with you. I ain't fully get it. I ain't gonna even lie to you. I've Googled
Okay.
it.
Oh, I'm
I've
nervous.
watched a
Oh,
couple
Lord.
YouTube videos. What is critical race theory and why are people so mad about it?
Ugh. Man, this is such a heavy topic. So heavy. So when I think of critical race theory, I just think it is a way of understanding how racism has affected the American fiber in this country. So when
Mm-hmm.
I think of critical race theory, I think of how um, you know ways in which we are trying to teach how racism has affected so many areas, in this country, whether it's politics or social behavior or the the penal system, whatever it might be. Um, Racism has played a part in pretty much every aspect of the the American culture.
Yeah,
Um,
without a doubt.
and I kind of think of it like this. I think of it like a blanket, like a quilt, you know. So in this
Okay.
blanket, it is quilt. You have all these different shapes, and you have all these different um, whatever. So when you quilt, you have these different colors, you have these different shapes, you have all these different patches put together to make this whole entire quilt, right? So the quilt is America, right? All these different patches are the people and the different cultures. The thread that's holding this quilt together is racism.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so, for
Okay.
me, well, so when you think about that, that thread that's kind of holding everything together on this quilt,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's held together well or whether it's held together in some people's eyes, they don't think there's a problem in America. But whether it's held together well or whether it's well together, however it's held together, it's still being held together by aspects of racism. And as long as racism has been a part of this country, um, what happens to a quilt that has been used for a long time, right? The thread becomes weak and the
Mm-hmm.
patchwork becomes detached. It's still there, it's still a resemblance of a blanket,
Yeah.
but it begins to fall apart, or the thread is not holding it together the way it's supposed to, or whatever. I don't know if that was a
Yeah.
good analogy,
That does help. That does help. That does
but
help. Because like I've already done
that's what I
some
think.
research on it. And that does make sense. That does make sense. So why do you believe people are so angry when this topic even comes up?
Because people don't want to believe that there's still a problem in America. What you mean racism? We over that. It ended with Martin Luther King, didn't it?
Mm,
Mm. Racism was, it just stopped as soon as Martin Luther King got done marching. Everything went to being okay, right?
yeah.
No, there's still a lot of residuals left over from everything, like all the way back to slavery. I mean, you can't talk about racism in this country without going all the way back to slavery and the effects that it has had on people in this country. And let me just give you an example of that.
Okay.
So, have I ever been enslaved? Absolutely not. But I have I have been affected by what slavery has done to my family.
Hmm.
For example, my great 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 grandmother was born a slave. Okay. And then my great great grandmother was born during the Jim
Reconstruction.
Crow,
Yeah.
all of that. So as a great great grandmother who was born in slaves, she had no way of building wealth. She had no way of, she couldn't travel. There's no education. She didn't have any of these things, right? Then we have another generation. Now I'm at the great great
Grand.
grandmother, okay, who was born in
Hmm.
Reconstruction. All right, she was still hindered. She was still not considered a first class citizen. So her education, she still wasn't able to get educated. She still was a sharecropper. Okay, you know what sharecropping is, another form of slavery. So she
Hmm.
wasn't able to build wealth for her family. She had no way of. Okay, my grandmother, born in 1901,
Hmm.
was still born under Jim Crow. So she was still struggling, trying to figure out how to raise her family. So she didn't know anything about how to build wealth. Education was important to her. She was also a sharecropper. Now I'm at
Yeah.
my mama, born in 1941. She was born under Jim
Jim Crow.
Crow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Now my mama, 1941, born under Jim Crow. So she also struggled with education. Okay. She also had to, wait in line to get her piece of pie. 1941.
Yeah.
I was born in
That's a long time.
1976. I was born in 1976. No, was I born under Jim Crow? No, I was not. But do I still feel the effects of it?
Yeah. Without a doubt. Yeah.
I mean,
And
it's
that.
generational. And so they expect us
Yeah.
to be able to say, oh, that happened a long time ago. You should get over it. It's not something that we should have to think about. Racism doesn't exist anymore. That is a lie. I am a generational descendant of someone who could not find their way in America. So even though I am sitting here in Rockwall in a nice house, but I still don't understand generational wealth. That's
Yeah.
so now I'm having
That's a,
to figure out what that looks like for me and my family. I am 4 generations behind.
yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I do have an education. I do. But it took my family to 1976 to get to this point.
Yeah.
That's the problem. So we need to talk about it. We need to talk
I
about
agree.
why it took that long.
I agree. And I can see why people are trying to suppress that. That does make sense. That does make sense. I can see why
It
somebody
makes
would want to
so much
suppress that.
sense.
Because my line brother, he did an interview and it's gonna come out before this one. And he talked about how one of his coworkers was talking about his inheritance. He was like, man, I only got $250,000. And so now he hears that and he's the only and he's like, yeah, man, that's like life changing. Like he didn't say nothing to him, he's just listening, listening to the conversation. And it's like, I'm not gonna get that kind of inheritance. Not by a long shot, but
Not even
that's
this
the
much.
level, right? That's the level of disparage. Like I can't even imagine my parents leaving that to me, and this
Hmm.
person is complaining about this amount. So that does make a lot of sense in terms of critical race theory. Thank you for trying. Thank you for clearing that up. At least you cleared it up for me. I don't
Well,
know.
I mean, I don't know how well I did it justice, but that's just me talking from my point of view.
When you broke it down into your own family, that's what like gave me the clarification. And it's wild. Like me being black, I didn't need a word for it. I just experienced it. It ain't. It just is what it is. But
But see, and I don't
I
understand
get it.
why it would be a big deal to talk about racism. I don't understand why. We always talk about that there is healing in communication and there's healing in talking about something that has hurt someone. I don't understand why we can't have a conversation about what has caused an entire group of people to feel oppressed and to feel left out and to feel not a part of. So I don't
Yeah.
understand why you can't allow space for a conversation. We're not pointing fingers. It's
Yeah.
just allowing space for a conversation, or at least allowing space to say, I hear you. I sympathize with you. I understand. Now let's move forward together. See, that's not saying you did something wrong. It's saying, I acknowledge that you have been done wrong. And let's move forward together and let's figure out how we can make a better future. I don't think our generation, has done a good job at trying to reconcile. But I think
Yeah.
there is hope in the generation before us and our children and our children's children. I think there's hope
Yeah.
in those generations that's coming up behind us because they're starting to see things a whole lot differently than we do. So I think
Yeah.
there's hope with reconciliation with them, but I don't think we've done a good job at it. And in the people who came before us, absolutely not. But I think there's hope in the younger generations that's coming up with what
Gotcha.
reconciliation can truly look like. Moving forward in this country. I don't know. We'll see.
That
Maybe we'll get to see it.
that's great though. So there's like a full circle when it comes to school, right? You have what you've
Hmm.
learned in the classroom, and then you have what's reinforced at home. So, what advice do you have for parents who are not dealing with, but who are going to be exposed to this new form of teaching, or this new, I guess, theory of teaching, the
Hmm.
new
Well,
perspective of
I would
teaching?
just say be actively engaged in your child's learning. So, me and my husband, what we always want to do is give both sides of the coin. We never teach Asha, Judah, and Faith. Thank you, honey. I almost forgot. I was like, what's my name?
What's the
Lord,
one
I
that's
got so
graduating,
many of them.
right?
Yeah, I was like, we never teach them there's only one side. We don't. You know what? I think it's important that you know both sides of a story, and you decide which side of the story that you line up with the most. And I think that's why. I think that's what America. I'm not gonna say America. I'm sorry. A lot of people are afraid of to give both sides of the story and let people decide on their own where they stand. So I think
Yeah.
we've gotten into the habit of telling people what to believe, or telling people how to feel, or telling people what's right, instead of giving them the platter and let them choose what they want to eat.
Mm,
And it's a whole lot more freedom in that when you allow people to decide where they stand instead of force feeding them. And I think that's why a lot of people are also afraid of critical race theory, because it doesn't talk about just one group of people's perspective. It gives a perspective of people who were around, and everybody, white, black, Hispanic, Indian, I'm sorry, Native American. There's perspective of all of those groups of people when you are considering critical race theory. But the problem is people are afraid that maybe they're not going to agree with that popular opinion.
hmm.
And then there's going to be a weakening of power. Okay.
Gotcha.
So I think that's really important, when you're teaching your children. I just that's we've been closed minded enough in this country, and I think it's time that we allow our children to be to think for themselves and to have them to stand up for what they believe in. I don't know. That's just me. Even
Damn.
though
That's incredible. That's good.
that's what I would
I
tell any parent: be actively engaged in their children's learning. And don't be afraid to give both sides of the story.
gotcha. Now, Vonda, we've come to the end. Is there anything that you believe that you left on the table? Anything that I cut you off, or maybe you wanted to clarify anything like that?
No, not really. I don't think so. I think I pretty much said everything I wanted to say. I didn't leave anything out. I like to talk, Tyler. You say Tyler be talking. Vonda show
Vonda
enough
got the
be
vocals.
talking. I do. I
Vonda got
love
the
to talk.
vocals. That's what's up, man. So, all right, that means we've come to the final segment, and that is words of encouragement. Okay, Vonda, words of encouragement is exactly what it sounds like. It is where we give the people some words of encouragement so that they can hold on to it and go out throughout their lives until we meet again. Okay, now I'm gonna clean up and tidy up right real quick. I want you to think of the words of encouragement you have for the people. All right.
Okay.
All righty. All right. Y'all, for those of you who've made it this far into the video, this far, like right here, number one, thank you. Okay. Many people don't make it this far. So thank you for listening to the entire episode. Okay. Also, y'all, man, I want you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. That way, and follow the podcast if you're listening to the podcast version. That way we can stay up to date. Okay. That way we can, you can know when we're posting new information. For the YouTube version, please comment below the most valuable part that you heard in this episode, and also any topics that you would want Vonda to talk about when she returns. Okay. Now, for the podcast version, please leave a 5-star review, man. Just leave a 5-star review and let us know what about the episode you're listening to right now was the most valuable to you. Okay. Also, make sure you guys check out Pray Plan Execute. Go to prayplanexecute.shop. Use code FAM, FAM. I promise you, I'm not tricking you. He's only updating the five, okay? If you miss it, it's not on me, it's on you, okay? And my words of encouragement, you guys, do not be afraid to ask the question. Okay, you guys, you have to ask the question. I know sometimes it's embarrassing. Sometimes we get that little feeling, and it's like, man, maybe this is too obvious, or maybe this is too trivial. They're gonna think I'm dumb, right? Regardless, man, you guys got to ask the question, because only through asking questions, only through failure, asking questions, and kind of being in that uncomfortable state can we find enlightenment. Okay. You guys, we need enlightenment, because when you find out more about the world that you live in, the world that you occupy, the spaces and the people that are around you, you become a more well-rounded individual, right? You become just a little closer to achieving whatever purpose God has for you. All right. Now, you guys, just I want you guys to reach out to one person that you know you can get some information from. I want you to go ahead, ask them the question. Don't be afraid of what the question is. Just ask, right? Just take the boldness and ask that question. Now, Vonda, what are your words of encouragement for the people?
I think I want to leave y'all with this. And I know if y'all know me, you already know my story and what I've been dealing with this last year. Um, I lost my mom to COVID, and my mom was my best friend. That was my homie, my road dog. It was like losing two people, losing my mom, and then, then losing my best friend. So it was like a double whammy. So I know what brokenness, looks like and feels like. I would say, be strong enough and be brave enough to admit when you are broken, and to admit that you can be broken, and to admit that brokenness can happen, but there is hope in brokenness. And so I know I've seen some things, and I have been broken, and I have been broken to my kneecaps, and sometimes where I can't even get up, spiritually or physically. I have been broken, but there's hope in that brokenness, to where I know that I am not in a place where I can't be repaired. So there is hope in that. Um, so, to leave you with this encouraging word, even if you are in a broken state, or if you feel like you are broken and you are in, a situation all alone, and you feel like you're by yourself and no one understands and no one knows what you are going through, I just want to encourage you to know that what we are going through now is nothing new under the sun. It has been happening for years before, centuries before, before we were born. God has seen it all. And because He has seen it all, He knows how to handle it all. There is no situation too broken where He cannot repair. There's no situation too broken where God cannot repair. There is always hope in brokenness.
That's incredible. That's great, man. You guys heard it here on How's the Fam. Vonda, thank you, man. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for
Thank you for
talking with
having
us.
me, Tyler. It was
Yeah,
fun. I loved it.
this is awesome, man. This is awesome. Yeah, fam's all good. Y'all be blessed.